Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. Before we get to today's video, we wanted to announce that Crime Zone's official Patreon page is now live. In addition to ad-free videos and other extras, patrons will also get access to weekly bonus videos for our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International series. So if you want even more Crime Zone content, head over to patreon.com/crimezone for exclusive cases not featured in today's video.
Authorities in Northern California say that a 47-year-old former college professor is in custody this week after he was accused of setting fires in several places in and around two of the state's national forests. According to reports, investigators first began to suspect that Gary Stephen Maynard was starting the fires near the Lawson National Forest and the Shasta Trinity National Forest following an incident on July 20th. At approximately 9:45 a.m. that day, police were called to the western side of Mount Shasta after mountain bikers noticed that a fire had broken out there. When a U.S. Forest Service investigator arrived at the scene, he found a man, later identified as Maynard, underneath a black Kia Soul that appeared to have become stuck in a ditch. The investigator had to ask Maynard his name several times before he responded, and even then briefly refused to come out from underneath the vehicle. Aside from being uncooperative, he also appeared to be agitated. Maynard eventually answered a few of the investigators' questions, but claimed that he didn't know anything about the fire. However, as authorities began to look further into Maynard's activities, following his movements through his electronic benefits card and store surveillance recordings, they began to find evidence that he was at the scene of multiple fires. Using this information, they were also able to obtain a warrant to place a tracking device on his vehicle, which showed Maynard traveling hundreds of miles to where the Ranch Fire and Conrad Fire broke out on August 7th in the Lawson National Forest. Maynard was arrested that day inside the emergency closure area that had been set up due to the massive Dixie Fire. Authorities alleged that he entered the evacuation zone and began setting fires behind first responders who were in the midst of fighting the blaze. It is believed that Maynard suffers from serious mental health issues. Though he had formerly worked as a college professor, the two schools where he had most recently worked confirmed in news reports that he was no longer employed there. Last year, an unknown colleague of Maynard's reportedly called police and told them that they were concerned about his mental state, though it's unclear what, if anything, was done at the time. Maynard has now been charged with intentionally setting the ranch fire. If convicted, he could face up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine.
Authorities in multiple counties just outside of Oklahoma City say that the routine transportation of a suspect turned into a wild chase this week after he managed to escape from police custody and steal an ATV. According to reports, the incident began on Tuesday, August 10th, when an officer from the Jones Police Department was transporting a man named Lucas Strider to the Oklahoma County Detention Center. He had initially been arrested on suspicion of stealing copper wire and catalytic converters. However, at some point during the journey, Strider managed to force the door of the patrol car open and escape into the nearby woods. He was next spotted by police in the city of Edmond, just north of Oklahoma City, and by this time was riding the stolen ATV. What followed was a series of high-speed chases through Edmond and the northern part of Oklahoma City, as officers attempted to stop Strider as he moved between police jurisdictions, blowing through stop signs and cutting through parking lots, fields, and wooded areas. At times, the chase reached speeds of 70 miles per hour, as Strider attempted to evade police while still wearing the handcuffs he had been placed in earlier. The chase finally came to an end when police managed to force Strider and his ATV into a pool of muddy water along a dirt road in Logan County. The tactic caused him to wipe out, after which he surrendered to police without trying to put up a fight. In addition to the grand larceny charges that Strider was initially facing for the thefts, he has now been charged with felony eluding for attempting to escape the police. It's unclear if he will face additional charges for stealing the ATV.
Authorities in the city of Lawrence, South Carolina say that a 28-year-old man has been arrested this week after he was allegedly captured on video giving a face tattoo to a minor inside the dining area of a local McDonald's. The bizarre and unsanitary crime reportedly took place on August 6th and was uncovered after angry drive-thru patrons wondered what was taking so long with their orders. A few eventually went to the front of the restaurant and peered through the window, only to allegedly discover an employee at the location named Brandon Prescia giving the tattoo. That's when they began filming. Police were alerted to the incident several days later after footage of the unsettling incident began to circulate online. Prescia, who is not even a licensed tattoo artist, was arrested on August 7th and has now been charged with illegal tattooing and underage tattooing. The name and age of the minor who received the tattoo have not been disclosed. Representatives from McDonald's say that they are conducting their own investigation into the incident and have issued a statement saying that nothing is more important to them than the health and safety of their customers. The restaurant is apparently a franchise location that was recently remodeled by its new owners. Prescia is currently being held at the Lawrence County Detention Center, where his bond has been set at $25,000.
Police in Kenosha, Wisconsin say that an unidentified 19-year-old woman is facing charges this week after she accidentally shot her friend while playing with the laser sight on a handgun. The incident began on the afternoon of August 10th when the 19-year-old was visiting an apartment in the city with a 21-year-old friend who brought the weapon. At some point, the 19-year-old, who had been drinking, picked up the handgun, turned on the laser sight, and began to point it at the floor to get a cat that lived in the apartment to chase it. A short time later, the gun went off, striking the 21-year-old man who was standing in the doorway in the thigh. The man left the scene and went into another apartment where police were called. When they arrived, a tourniquet was applied to the man's leg to stop the bleeding. The 19-year-old woman has since been charged with negligent use of a weapon. She claimed that the whole thing was an accident and that she thought that the magazine had been taken out of the gun at the time that she was handling it. At the time of this recording, the 21-year-old man's condition is not known. However, authorities have said he will also be facing charges. He was out on bond at the time of the incident, one of the conditions of which prohibited him from having a weapon.
Authorities in Bergen County, New Jersey say that they're investigating the disturbing discovery of human remains this week after the body of a woman was found in a large plastic barrel outside of a home in Ridgefield Park. The grim discovery was made at about 10:30 a.m. on August 13th after the plastic container was spotted on the curb by the street near the corner of Hobart Street and Teaneck Road. It was not immediately viewed as suspicious by residents in the area, as Friday is also the neighborhood's garbage collection day, but eventually police were called. The barrel was taken away in a large black van at around 2:30 later that afternoon after authorities dusted it for fingerprints. It is believed that the barrel was dropped off on the street sometime early that morning between 1 and 6 a.m. At the time of this recording, little additional information is available about the ongoing investigation. The identity of the woman has not been released, and it appears that police have also not determined her cause of death. The chilling crime has caused many people in the area to become alarmed. Ridgefield Park is said to be a normally quiet area with only 6 homicides since 1986.
This week, representatives from the Missouri Attorney General's office announced second-degree murder charges against a 65-year-old woman in the cold case killing of her boyfriend, James Summers. Summers was 47 years old when on the evening of April 27, 2004, police discovered his body lying on his driveway outside his home in the community of Dittmer. He had been shot in the back and in the face. Though Summers' live-in girlfriend Alice Weiss was questioned at the time of the incident, charges were never filed against her. Now, more than 17 years later, investigators from Jefferson County and the newly created Attorney General's Cold Case Unit say that they have evidence that she is responsible for the murder. According to reports, Weiss's inconsistencies about the crime began during her initial questioning, when she gave investigators several conflicting statements about what had happened. She said that she was in the shower at the time of the shooting and had heard the gunshots, but when police ran a test to see if it was possible to hear shots from that distance, they found that they were barely audible, unless you knew what you were listening for. When the murder weapon was found to belong to Weiss, she told authorities that she stored the gun unloaded in a closet. Upon informing her that her hands would need to be swabbed for gunshot residue, Weiss attempted to stall and go to the bathroom. When officers would not let her go, she abruptly changed her story, saying that she had actually fired her gun earlier that day. She previously said she had not fired it in 20 years. Residue was likewise found on her robe, even though she told investigators that she was not wearing it when she had shot the gun. Cold case detectives were also able to uncover damning evidence in the form of new witness testimony from a cousin who recalled a disturbing conversation with Weiss back in 2008. The cousin told detectives that Weiss had said to him that even if she were ever charged with the murder, she could blame it on her father, who was suffering from late-stage dementia and was the only other person in the house at the time of the shooting. Weiss's father has since passed away from his illness, and due to the advanced nature of his condition, was not even able to provide a statement to police at the time of the murder. Weiss is currently being held without bond in the Jefferson County Jail. She and her lawyer continue to maintain her innocence.
Representatives from the Hernando County Sheriff's Office are crediting one of their police dogs with the capture of a wanted suspect this week after he was sniffed out by the animal during the search of a residence. According to reports, the incident began around 5 p.m. on August 9th when sheriff's deputies received a tip that 59-year-old Michael Lewis might be hiding at a property in the county. Lewis was wanted for stealing a vehicle, but had so far managed to evade police. Officers called in a canine unit to assist them in the search, leading to the arrival of a police dog named Justice at the scene. Justice and his handlers began a methodical search of each of the house's rooms until they arrived at a bedroom where he began to get very excited and circled around a bed. When the handler lifted the mattress, Justice stuck his head in and a man began to yell. It was Michael Lewis. The canine managed to bite Lewis in the face before grabbing a hold of one of his arms. After a brief trip to the hospital to be treated for his injuries, Lewis was taken to the Hernando County Detention Center. He has been charged with grand theft of a motor vehicle and resisting without violence, and is currently being held on $3,500 bond.
Authorities in San Antonio, Texas say that 3 people are dead and at least 2 others are injured this week, following an early morning shooting outside of a local sports bar. According to reports, the terrifying incident took place just before 3:30 a.m. on Sunday, August 15th, outside of the Boom Boom Sports Bar on New Braunfels Avenue. Police believe that the shooting began as an altercation between 2 people in the bar, which eventually spilled into the parking lot. It is said that the owner was trying to close the location, which had likely been operating after hours. The shots were fired after one of the men involved in the altercation returned to his vehicle and came back with some sort of long gun, proceeding to fire at those who were still outside. At least 5 people were struck in the resulting gunfire. 2 people were pronounced dead at the scene, while 1 died after arriving at the hospital. The other 2 victims shot during the attack are said to be in critical condition. The 3 deceased victims have been identified by family members as 26-year-old Morrow and 32-year-old April Rodriguez, as well as 28-year-old Dan Martinez. At the time of this recording, few other details about the crime are known. The suspect has not been identified and remains at large. That's it for this edition of Crimes of the Week. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.